question really as to why we chose engagement and performance comes from a number of things. Most of our sponsors, and indeed most organisations, are doing work in the area. It's already been investigated in quite some detail. So it's important to look at it. It's also becoming clear that more critical questions are being asked about engagement. Some of the assumptions we make about the link to performance are really based on quite generic data. Many organisations have different service models, they have all sorts of different populations inside the organisations, so we've been asking some more critical questions about the evidence, and I think it's time that we do this. It's also clear that this is a matter of national policy. I mean, we've had the McLeod Review, there are policy debates about being able to demonstrate the role that people management can play in this current competitive environment. So the research is really based on deep search of the literature. We've been doing our own data analysis based on data sets we have inside some of our sponsors, from which we've learned a lot about engagement. We have ongoing case studies inside a number of organisations, and we have used that to actually arrive at, I think, a much better view, more useful view of what we can do with engagement. One of the key findings from the research is that there are really 3 different types of engagement strategy that organisations pursue. And the first one we really call internal marketing. What has been done here is that the organisation has developed a new strategy, is undergoing a business transformation, and they need to articulate what that transformation means for the performance of employees. And therefore, the strategy is one of essentially selling the strategy, of ensuring that there is mutual understanding of this and that there's satisfaction with that. So there's no assumption made that organisation performance necessarily improves as a result of higher engagement scores when you're looking at an internal marketing approach. Chief executives or senior managers look at it and they essentially say, if those scores go up, I am confident that I will be able to execute that strategy more effectively and I'll be able to execute the strategy more quickly. And that hopefully will improve performance, but that's not what I'm interested in, that's not what I'm looking at. And in that approach, the strategy is driven by typical consumer marketing principles. So you're looking at different employee groups, you're looking at their communication needs and the sorts of messaging that becomes important from those groups. Now a second approach, which is different again, this is what we would call a process improvement perspective. It's a sort of two-way psychological contract way of looking at this. There is an assumption that engaged employees will take responsibility to self-improve, to help improve the organisation and its processes. They will go the extra mile. The strategy is based on creating that sort of additional behaviour for employees. You're looking for more intermediate impacts, satisfaction amongst the workforce. And then there's a third approach, and this is driven by service profit chain thinking. Now here you are making assumptions and you're going to measure improvements on bottom line financial performance. The assumption is that engagement feeds directly into performance outcomes, financial outcomes, around the customer experience. And so organisations have different service models, but they will take their service model, they will identify the sorts of areas where engagement should impact that customer relationship, and they will look at the financial returns that come from engagement and can develop performance benchmarking around that. Now those 3 ways of looking at engagement are different strategies, they require different interventions, and you're probably going to measure different things in your workforce. And our argument is that you have to understand that, rather than actually assuming you can do all 3 things in one go, because you might not.
Engagement means different things for different users. We have found that for academicians, engagement is a combination of various previously used terms such as job involvement, organizational commitment, organizational citizenship behavior, proactivity, all probably rolled in one. For consultancies, it is more of a means to enhance the performance of their clients, probably using the construct of service profit chain, and they believing that it's going to work across all companies, across all circumstances. For in-house end users, the concept of engagement means different things depending on how they believe that human resource practices and policies in their organization can have an impact on various factors. So they can use it for internal marketing, they can use it for process improvement, or if they really believe very strongly that some of the HR practices can enhance organizational performance, they can even use what the consultancy sell them, this idea. We believe that engagement leads to what we call performance belief, a shared belief that the team has the required ability, resources, goal clarity, and the leadership attribute to achieve what the team has been set to asked to achieve. Yes, we believe engagement can be managed, but to do that, companies need to be clear as to what do they mean by engagement and what do they expect an engaged workforce to do. They must have a clear understanding of the antecedents of engagement and therefore the consequences of engagement. They can do that if they have very astute pre and post HR intervention measures of engagement, and if they can test it.
There's good news and bad news for HR directors. The good news is that many business transformations now, the chief executive actually is often using a metric of engagement as a measure of success. So engagement has moved to centre stage. The more challenging question now is that we need to harden up the evidence as to exactly how engagement will deliver these business transformations. Most companies, when they look at the data, they're getting very mixed messages, very complex situation, and so we need to actually build an understanding of how performance is really delivered. I think the obvious next thing that we want to go and do is to bring together operations directors, transformation directors, capability directors, the strategists and the HR directors, and unravel how the new business transformation and its key performance indicators are in any way dependent on people management. They are, but we need to lay out that recipe. We call them performance recipes.